Good morning, Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on Daf Yud Zayin, Amud Aleph, the first of the wide lines, and we're going to be actually studying together one of the all-time famous agathas of the Gemara, extremely time-appropriate, entering Chodesh Elul and facing the process of Tshuva, the Gemara of Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya. Today's Amud is being learned. Neschud Yosha ben Diana, Yael bat Rivka, Menashe ben Asi. His Amud is being learned also. Neschud Refuah Shelema of Yaakov Meir ben Nahid. And today's Amud is being learned. Leilui Neshmat Sipora bat Yitzchak. Says the Gemara, the pasuk mentions Kol ba'eha lo yeshuvun. It's Shlomo Melech in Mishlei, in a very famous pasuk in Perek Bet, Kol ba'eha lo yeshuvun velo yasigu orchot hayim. Anyone that goes to this path will never come back, and they will not achieve pathways of life. That's how we translate it. Says the Gemara, what do you mean Kol ba'eha lo yeshuvun? What is the Gemara referring to when it says anyone that goes here does not come back? Says the Gemara, כל בעיה לא ישובון ולא ישיגו אורחות חיים וכי מאחר שלא שבו היכן ישיגו. In other words, the Gemara says, well, it either could be לא ישיגו אורחות חיים, that they won't have עולם הבא, or alternatively עולם הזה. Makes more sense to say that they won't have עולם הבא, right? If you go to the pathway of minut, as we mentioned before, min is mitalmidei Yeshua Notzri, and min, the Chazal tell us they were adukim be'avodah zarah. They were attached and connected and dedicated completely to avodah zarah. You go to that, you're not coming back, fine. But what's lo yasigu orchot chaim? So now the Gemara is assuming this means no olam haba, not coming back. So Gemara says, wait a second. Of course, lo yasigu orchot chaim. If you told me in the beginning of the pasuk, kol ba'ya lo yeshuvun, that they're never gonna come back, so of course, lo yasigu orchot chaim. Gemara says no. Hachikamar is not referring to olam haba. It actually is referring to an additional thing that's going to happen to them in olam hazeh. You're correct. If he was referring to olam haba, it would be pashut. Because once you say lo yeshuvun, of course lo yasigu orchot chaim. Once they don't do tshuva, of course the olam haba is jeopardized. But it's actually adding something in olam hazeh that's going to happen to them. Ve'im yashuvu, that if they do return to tshuva, lo yasigu orchot chaim, they won't live. They will die. Which is very oxymoronic. Like, you do tshuva and then you die. Remember the kol haporesh miminut ma'it. Gemara says, wait a second, you mean to say that anyone that comes back and does tshuva from minut, from the ot kozvot, the misled ways of thought process of a person in their hashkafa and their outlook on life, a person that ideologically is misguided and believes in minut is going to die if he does tshuva? Now, aside from understanding what the logic behind this would be, which we're going to discuss in just a moment, the Gemara says, well, I bring you a proof that it doesn't happen. I bring you proof that somebody did tshuva and didn't die. Says the Gemara, there's this woman that had done tshuva and comes to Rav Chisda in process of her confession. She says, Amra le kalash bakalot asta bena katan mi bena gadol. Says the least averah that I did, the smallest of the smallest, is that I mothered my youngest with my oldest. Right? That means the father of my youngest boy is my oldest boy. That's the least averah that I've done. So says the Gemara, Ve'amar Rav Chisda says, Tarchula bezvata, go prepare her tachlichin, she's going to die. In the process of tshuva like that, she's going to die. But the Gemara says, Velo meta, she didn't die. Now the Gemara says, well, mideka amra kalash kalot asta mi bena hagadol mina katan. the fact that that's the least Averah that she did, Michlal de minut nami ha'avya. You must say that she also had minut. If that's the smallest Averah that she did, she certainly had minut as well. So says the Gemara, Hahu de lo hadra ba shapir. Gemara says that person did not do a proper tshuva. Had she done a proper tshuva, she would have died. Right? We have to get to what's happening over here, right? Umishum hachi lo meta, and therefore she didn't die. Ikadamri. There are those who say, Mi minut en, mi ma'avera lo. There are those who say no. It's from minut that the person dies, but from avera no. Veha hida ataika me the Rav Chisda. The whole Gemara is now said differently. Ikadamri has slight difference in the way the Gemara develops, and the story is said differently as well.
Avera here means znus.
Znus. Says the Gemara, the same story here, that she says to Rav Chisda that the least of the averot that I've done in my life is this, and Rav Chisda says, Zavidu la zavata, prepare her tachlichin, umeta, and she did die. Says the Gemara, Mide kamra kalash kalod michlad minu nami avera. Gemara says, well, if this is the smallest averah that she did, she must have had minut also. And therefore, you see from here that the minut is the one that kills, and not the averah. In other words, the Gemara suggested that you die from minut if you do tshuva, but not from zenut. Gemara said, well, this woman died and she did zenut. And Gemara said, no, she must have had minut as well. Gemara says, well, so you're suggesting that the person that is aduk b'minut dies if he does tshuva or she does tshuva, but someone that's aduk attached to avera, which means zenut, immorality and promiscuity, is not going to die. Well, are you forgetting the all-time famous Agata in the Gemara of Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya? Says the Gemara. V'hatanya. Didn't we learn in the Braita, Amru alav al Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya? There was this fellow, well, now the Gemara calls it Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya, but you'll see that he got smicha afterwards. For now, this guy was called Elazar ben Durdaya. By the way, the Maharal says something very interesting. Maharal writes, his history and makeup is merumaz in his name. The Gemara elsewhere says that Shema Garim, there's a concept of your name being very much engraved with your essence together. Rabbi Meir would darshan the names of people and act upon that understanding, deep understanding of a person's name, and so on. Like Asher Shamot Ba'ares Al Tikre Shamot Ela Shemot, that Shemot of a person, of people, is really meaningful. And the Maharal writes, Durda, and actually in Arabic and Farsi also is the same thing, is the shmarim of wine. Right? The pesolet of wine on the bottom is called Durda. Durdaya is the pesolet of wine. Chometz, vinegar, is wine that's gone bad, but still is not pesolet. Durdaya is pesolet, right? So this guy was a pesolet sheba anashim, was a hopeless person. He was so deep into this, right? They have these things of internet addiction that it shows that it does actually the same exact thing that any addiction does. It releases dopamine in a person's mind, which causes the addiction, and the amount of dopamine released in a person's brain is more than a heroin addict. So imagine this guy was kacha, was gone, right? Avud. But at the same time, his name is Elazar. Elazar, Hashem will help. Even in this case, which we'll see how it is. So says the Gemara, this guy Elazar ben Durdaya, what was his fame? He had the Genesis word record of having met everyone that there is in the list to meet. In the world known to him, he had checked off every person on the list. Says the Gemara, Pam Achat Shama, right? One time in the news, he heard that there's one person in the world he has not met. Over the seas. Very expensive. A whole bag of coins. Natal Kistinarin, he said, no problem. He took a Kistinarin. He lived in North Beverly Hills. He was rich. He took his wallet. He went, he traveled. Shiv'a Neharot, 7 rivers. Usually means, well, doesn't mean literally 1, 2, 3. Shiv'a is the full capacity of the physical world, right? Everything in the world is Shiv'a, right? How many days of the week you have Shiv'a? How many colors, natural colors you have in the rainbows? Shiv'a, right? How many chokhmot? Shiv'a. How many notes of music? Shiv'a. All of them is Shiv'a, right? Even the maximum a person would ever go. As they started, he ficha. She burped, she let gas. Amra, she said, I'll say that there's a little different girsa'ot. Rabbeinu Hananel, for instance, says that he heard. It's not clear if she said that he heard the people saying, or a bat kol saying, that Elazar ben Durdaya, oy vavoy, not going to come back. This is very reminiscent, by the way, of the Gemara we had in Masechet Chagigat of Tetvav Tetzayin. The story of Elisha Acher, Elisha ben Avuya. You remember? That's another person that heard that Shuvu banim shovavim chutz ma'acher. Everybody come back, aside from Acher is hopeless. And what did he do? He actually went to a zona. You could hear the same thing, the same bat kol, and one person does that, and look at what he did. You want to wonder why he's called Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya. Rab Hutner writes, said that he's Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya because he's the rabbi, he's the rebbe, he's a teacher of tshuva. You know what you need for tshuva? You need the mindset of this guy. Listen to this. She said, just like this, air is never going back to its place. Elazar ben Durdaya, you are a hopeless person. You'll never be able to do tshuva. Halach v'yashav. This penetrated him like poison. Now, I can't do tshuva. Of course I should be able to. And he stopped. And he goes, he sits between Shnei Harim v'Gvaot. He starts davening. Amar Harim v'Gvaot, bakshu alai rachamim. Mountains and hilltops, please ask for mercy on me. Amru lo, they answered him. Or as the Tosafot says, maybe he's the Sar of the Harim v'Gvaot. Or really, he's thinking this whole process in his mind, says the Tosafot. Right? Not that there is a dialogue, but he's saying, I need teshuvah, I need tefillah. Who is going to daven on my behalf? Harim u'Gvaot. Actually, there is a beautiful piece written from Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer, Rabbi Yitzchak Petterburger, the Talmud of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. He says, he is going through all the mind process of people who are in deep trouble. And you know what we do when we're in trouble? We blame people. So the first thing you blame is father and mother. Always, if I had a better father, if my mother was not like my mom is, you know what would I be? Harim v'Gvaot. When we say Esai Na'el Harim, is Avot, Rashi says, right? That's Avot. Esai Na'el Harim. So Harim v'Gvaot, bakshu alai dachem. And it says, Ad she'nebakesh, ad she'anu mebakeshim alecha nebakesh al asmenu. We need our own needs. You think we are secure? Nobody is secure. Shedemar, ki harim yemushu v'agvaot temutena, is going to be destroyed also. So we need our own needs. Amar shamayim v'ares bakshu alai rachamim. Shamayim v'ares. In the language of Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer, that's the control over the agricultural system, the wealth of a person, finances. If I was a rich man, right? We blame our finances. I'm so busy, I have to work. I have to work 3 jobs, 4 jobs. Or I'm too rich, right? And I'm spoiled. What do you expect? So says the Gemara, they give the same answer. We're busy with our own things. You think we're secure? Also gonna go bad. Amrulo, same thing with Chava and Levana. Atshanu bakshim alecha v'bakasha al atzmenu. Shneimar v'chafra levana u'posha chama. So they have their answer too. Amar kochavim. Finally, he says kochavim u'mazalot, galaxies, the mazalot, the constellation of heaven. Bakshu alai rachamim. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Baz and Yitzchak Pettenberger. It's the mazal, the last thing you always blame when you have nothing else to blame. He says, I'm a shuna mazal. I have no mazal. Whatever I do, it's my mazal like this. I am predestined to be fill in the blank, right? Transgender, garbage, all the avirot that people do. Predestined, precompositions, mazalot. Says the Gemara, Amrula, Shanu bakshim alechan bakshim. Same answer. Shenemar, as it says, in Nabku kol tzva shemayim, they're also not secure. And here is the key. The gadlut of Elazar ben Durdaya was that he, in his mind going through this process, says, I cannot blame anything. I can't blame my parents. I can't rely or blame finances. I can't even blame my mazal. En hadavar talui elabi. It is only dependent on one person, and that's me. And says the Gemara, Hiniach Rosho ben Bilchav. He put his head between his knees. Says the Ben Yoyada, says the Ben Ishchai alav shalom. Because a baby in the womb is in that form, a pure baby who has never sinned, and he wanted to go back to that status. He started a tremendous cry. Now, before we go on, you have a very similar story in Tanakh with this. Yoshiyahu Melech Yisrael was a tremendous tzaddik. He inherited the Melucha in a very young age, a tender age. He was a toddler, basically. And he was coached. And he had, the famous story that happened with him is that the Kohen, that was Mesharet, he found in the Gnazim of the Beit HaMikdash, prior to him, was generations of the Avodah Zarah. The kings destroyed any remnants of Torah-observant Jewry. But he was committed to do the right thing. So they found a Sefer Torah, which perhaps, according to the Gemara in Baba Batra, was one of the 13 Sefer Torahs that Moshe Rabbeinu had written next to the Aron. And he was open to the parasha of Kilalot. One of the 11 Arurim in the Torah is Arur Asher Lo Yakim et Divrei HaTorah Azot. Cursed shall be a person that does not uphold the words of this Torah. And this is where the Torah was open to. And they bring it in front of the young king, they read it to him. What would you do? You would say, okay, maybe it's a sign. So please, open a Beit Midrash in Westwood, in Hollywood. The king, whatever he says, they'll do. He didn't do that. He got up from his throne. He rips his garments, taking this as a direct sign from Hashem, and he says the 2 words, Alai lehakim. Says, Arur Asher Lo Yakim, cursed shall be a person that doesn't uphold, Alai lehakim. It's on me to uphold the words of the Torah. I take responsibility for it. You see the difference? Other kings, even the tzaddikim, would say, you build the Beit HaMidrash. Can you be the Rosh Chabura? Can you start a WhatsApp chat on Torah? Can you create the Torah channel? Maybe you could give a shiur. Alai Rakim. It's on me. Same exact thing. That's the core element of tshuva. Now says the Gemara, he cried and cried until he died. Yatzta bat kol, a heavenly voice comes out and says, Ve'amra Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya mezuman lehaye haolam haba. Rabbi Elazar ben Durdaya is straight going to olam haba. The Tosafot says this in multiple places. One of the main places is the Gemara by Rabbeinu HaKadosh in Masechet Ketubot of Kuf Gimal. The Gemara there says, the Tosafot there says, Mezuman lechaya olam haba means, well, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek lo'olam haba. What do you mean Mezuman lechaya olam haba is invited to olam haba? Everyone is invited to olam haba. Means, says the Tosafot, he's going without din. He's going straight to olam haba, skipping the din, skipping the judgment. Can you imagine that? Now this guy, like this guy got straight olam haba. Can you imagine that level? A Guinness World Record of znut did a tshuva that put him ahead of tzaddikim. And says the Gemara, when Rebbe heard this, well, before that, says the Gemara, in parentheses, we brought this whole story to show that even when you're aduk ba'avera, when you're attached and addicted, not just to minut, but even to avera of znut, if you do tshuva, you die. Now, by the way, now that we're here, Maharsha writes the same thing. Maharsha writes that the reason a person will die is if HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows. It's a form of guarantee that he's not going to go back. A person that's so attached to Avera, to Minut especially, a mindset and ideology, once you set your mind on a certain ideology and you grow up with it and you attach yourself with it, it's very hard not to go back. It's very hard not to have a relapse, so to speak, like that. And therefore, if a person did complete tshuva and he's now fully cleansed, Hashem says, you know what, Yamud Zakai, Val Yamud Hayav. It's almost like a Ben Sorum, where you find a similar concept in the beginning of Bereshit, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu took a tzaddik because, Rashi says, Chazal say, Rashi brings it, that they did not know if Hanoch is going to be strong enough to withstand the nisyonot of his generation. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu took him early to make sure that he's going to be tzaddik nade rasha. So says the Gemara, here was Avera and he still died. The Gemara says, this guy was different. Usually by znut you don't die. But this person was so aduk, so attached, that he was like minut. Now, the Maharsha makes this really meaningful, because the reason for it is the relapse. This guy it's very dangerous to leave him alone for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because lest he's going to go back because of the strong addiction that he had. Therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu just said, now he is in a place that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is going to be jealous of him. Let it be here. He achieved what a human being the maximum a human being could ever achieve. So the Rahmanut of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on him is, let's freeze him in this moment. And that will be his Olam Haba. And the Gemara is going to say a beautiful piece of Rebbe, which is mentioned a few times in Shas. We're going to go through some examples of Bacha Rebbe, Bezrat Hashem, in the days to come.